guys? Welcome back to episode 4 of the All Chat podcast. I'm Grayson Yada, and I'm joined here by Jack Dawes. How you doing, Jack?
I'm good. It's been another excellent week of League of Legends, just like it's been every week up until now. It's been a good time. I'm excited to talk about all the crazy stuff that's happened this week.
Yeah, LEC playoffs today. Well, this weekend.
Yeah.
Tell me all about the LEC.
Okay. Oh man, where do we want to start?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot going on. So you came out with that video that we posted.
Yeah.
That was unreal. You went 2-0 the first day.
Yeah. So I woke up to to BDS beating Team Heretics 2-0. That was the one that I thought might be a little bit closer. I was pretty confident that G2 was just going to stomp Giant X.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of people, I think, who, I don't know if they thought that Team Heretics had a shot against BDS, but I think a lot of people see this top side of Team Heretics and go, oh, this team, there's no way they don't run playoffs, right?
Yeah. That's kind of
like
how I was. That's what I was thinking, But yeah, I haven't been watching the LEC as mumuch, and I know BDS is just riding this hot streak right now, and they do look like a legit
crazy
team. Yeah,
they're 4-0 in playoffs now, which means overall they're 11-2, which is nuts. So they actually have the best record out of all the teams because G2 just lost a game to Fnatic today.
Mm-hmm.
But I was looking at that game when I was recording the video.
Yeah.
Or like when I was writing the script to record the video. And as I was like looking through the teams and like looking through some of their stats and who they've won and who they've beat and who they've lost to and all that, I just started convincing myself that it was going to be a 2-0. I was like, I know a lot of people want this to be close, but it's not going to be. It's just Team Heretics are not very good. I want them to be good, but they're just not. Like, I'm pretty sure when I was looking at it, they've like only beat the teams beneath them. Pretty much. I think they have because they were 7th, so they've beat 8th, 9th, and 10th, and then like one other team, I think. And that's how they ended up with their score. So their wins were like not that impressive. They're not against like that impressive of teams. I mean, Rogue and KC looked like dead weight, more or less.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like I was just like, this is not going to be. BDS had like that. Yeah, BDS had that like fluke loss to KC in week 3 because KC was out of playoffs and they were like, okay, we got nothing to lose. We might as well win now, I guess, which always happens to teams. So they won a couple games. But other than that, they only lost to G2 in week 1. Yeah. So I was like, it's not going to be a close series. BDS is real. These guys they're not just like streaking or something. They're just actually better than everyone else.
Yeah, I saw some tweets. People are calling Nuke like the EU Chovy.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah,
I'm like, that's pretty high praise right there.
I've been saying that too. Okay, I haven't been saying that, but people have been talking about. I've seen a lot of people talk about Ice, and my opinion is that BDS functions off the back of Adam and Nuke. Yeah, I think Sheo, my opinion of Sheo actually went up during this weekend. I thought he had some really great plays this weekend. But really, if I see Nuke and Adam get ahead, I'm pretty confident the game is over. But if you look at, they had a game today against...
They have Vitality? Yeah,
against Vitality. And in the first game, Ice... They were sending all their resources bought for Ice. So he was like
popped off, right?
Yeah. He was like 6-0 at like 10 minutes or something.
Oh my gosh.
But you look at it and Carzzy was able to trade back kills pretty much every time. So it was like 6-3 at 10 minutes. And he kept the gold lead to like 1,000 for the entire game. So Carzzy would trade kills back onto Sheo and Labrov. And the gold lead for Ice over Carzzy was never more than like 1,200 or something. And that's just how it feels to me when they put resources into Ice. It feels like Ice is solid and can do his job, but it doesn't feel like he's the guy who's going to like win the game, even though he ended that game 12-0-7. And I still thought that he wasn't the best performing member of the team that game. It really felt like Sheo and Labrov were like spoon feeding him kills basically, and he was just like holding on to it and not dying. And I think that's the thing about Ice, is that he's good at not dying, and can hit like skill shots when he needs to. But I really think that like the other members of this team are what make it shine.
he doesn't have much of like an X factor, I guess, or like that killer instinct.
Not really.
Yeah.
He did an interview with the LEC that they played during one of the breaks or something, where he said that he was a really aggressive player, and I was like,
that's cat.
I don't know if I agree with that. Yeah. I was like, when I think of aggressive players in the team, I think like Adam.
Yeah, I was about to say like Adam is that player, you know.
He is, and you know, seeing him whip out his Darius, oh man, that was awesome. That was great.
I love seeing him on Garen. Like whenever he hits that, what is it, QW or QE, whatever the silence into the twirly durly. I'm like, oh, that's a kill, and then he finishes him off with an R. It's like, okay, that's not even fair.
Yeah. So as a Garen one trick in solo queue, I can tell you that's the most satisfying thing in the
world. Oh yeah. He loves the 360 champs for sure.
Yeah. They're some great games out of BDS though. I was so excited to see how well this team did. And then G2 as well. Did you have some?
I was gonna say, did that BDS series, well, did any of those series have weird drafts? Because I looked at some of the drafts today. Today's Monday, and some of the drafts were wild. Like I think I saw Hans on Braum, right? Was Hans playing Braum today?
Mickey was.
Mickey was. Okay.
Yeah. No, I think the craziest drafts were the G2 drafts today.
Okay.
BDS plays pretty standard. They want to put Nuke on Azir because Nuke's Azir is just insane. He just wins games with it. But yeah, it's a lot of Cassante top for Adam or the Gods picks. And then they just want to put Nuke on Azir. They play some like Aphelios, Jhin, just kind of like standard 80 carry stuff. It's like Maokai, Xin Zhao, pretty much standard stuff.
Yeah.
And then you look at the G2 drafts from this weekend.
Yeah.
And the first game against Fnatic, they picked Zac top. They actually picked Zac top in 2 of their games and won with it both times. And then they won a game on Lucian Nami, which don't pick Lucian, but
but
I guess
unless you're G2, I guess.
Yeah, but they went Zac, Lucian, Nami in the first game, and then in the third game, their comp was Zac, Vi, Hui, Kalista, Braum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to touch on that Zac top really quick.
Sure.
Because on, I want to say Friday night, T1 played Bro, and Zeus brought out Zac top in that game. This was like the day before LEC playoffs, and I was watching Cagel stream, and he went over to Broken Blade, and he was spamming Zac top in solo queue, and then like we saw in the T1 game, like that Zac top, even though he builds tank, somehow he does so much damage.
He does so much damage, and he's completely unkillable.
Yeah.
If he gets ahead, I think both games Broken Blade went 0 deaths. He was like, at one point he was like 3-0 and 12 in both games. So like he had like the same scoreline in both games, 0 deaths.
Yeah.
Just like completely unkillable.
It just looks like a menace. You know, you fly in, just jump around a little bit, pick up your blobs, and then boom.
Yeah.
You're at full HP after taking half the other team's health bar. So
they buffed the healing on, I think it's the blobs. I don't know exactly what it was, but they buffed like some of the healing in his kit just by a little bit. And now it's just like you play him in a solo lane and you just go around, pick up your blobs, and you just can't die. Ever.
Yeah, and he can roam so well because he can jump around.
Yeah. The slingshot is crazy. You should go back if you haven't seen this G2 Fnatic series. First of all, insane series, really fun to watch. But you should watch BB's Zac in game 3 because he just has he pretty much like he hard carried that game. Like he was the reason that they won. He got player of the game or player of the series or whatever. Pretty much because he just absolutely smurfed it on Zac for 2 games.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think that's a pick that we're going to be seeing a lot more. I think I saw it a few times in the LPL too. So I think that Zac top is something that a lot of these pro guys are picking up now. And it can also be flexed support somehow.
And mid. That's the thing.
Yeah, so it's like such a flex pick. So I think I saw a Zac support in one of the Eastern regions too. So it's one of those picks where it can go anywhere. It's like a Hui. I mean, there's so many flex picks now. It's kind of crazy.
I think that's what's going to make G2. I mean, they're known for being dangerous for this reason, but I think moving forward, they're going to continue to be dangerous for this reason. And it's because the person in the LEC who's actually known for playing Zac is Caps. Because Caps has pulled out Zac mid like last year and the year before. He's played it a little bit, and now it's broken again, and they're giving it to Broken Blade in the top lane because that's where it's working for them. But Caps just did an interview after their games where he was saying that he hopes that he can play it too. Wow. You know they're going to try and flex it mid and top. 100%. I'm sure Mickey has games on it. Like, I'm sure he's tried it support if anyone has played it. So G2 is just so dangerous for that.
I think any type of flexibility.
It's innovation, and the entire team plays it for some reason, which is wild.
We're also seeing Sion mid in the LCS a ton too.
So
there's just so many different flex picks that are kind of coming out now. And I think the LCS is where we're going to be seeing a lot more innovation, I guess, because of the live patch.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hope that's true. And I think that's why we've seen the Sion mid come out. And Garen, did you see that?
Insanity
right? Picked it.
Yeah.
It was the first ever Garen mid in a major region.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In a major region, wow.
In any major region, yeah. I don't know how that happened, but it was the first Garen mid.
Did they win? I think they won. No, they didn't win. Okay.
It didn't look great, but it happened.
Okay. Insanity's Shopify?
Shopify. Yeah. Shopify Rebellion.
They had a big dub this weekend.
They did. Well, so I don't know. Is that true? Are you talking about the Cloud9 win?
Oh, I was talking about NRG. I thought they kind of stomped NRG.
You're right. No, you're right, because they beat Cloud9 last weekend. Yeah, no, they did beat. NRG lost to Shopify and Immortals this weekend, so they went 1-2.
Oh wow. Yeah. I remember. I think I watched a little bit of that Shopify NRG game, and I was just like, kind of feels like NRG can't do anything. Like Contracts looks a little lost. Palafox looks like he's just trying to set things up, and nothing's going right.
Yeah. It's the non-rational gaming where NRG loses to bottom teams and beats top teams. But now Shopify is doing that too, because they beat NRG, and then they also had a couple really bad losses. They lost to Dig, and they lost to 100 Thieves.
Oh, 100 Thieves.
And I think they might have. I mean, the first round robin is done, so they've probably lost because they've only beat NRG and Cloud9.
Yeah,
because they're 2-5.
Oh, so okay, yeah.
Their only wins.
Those are pretty solid teams to have dubs against.
I guess so.
Yeah. That whole split's kind of crazy over there in the LCS. I think it's definitely shaping up to being one of the more competitive regions, which is pretty awesome.
It's really interesting that it feels like for the first time the LCS is kind of a mess because every team is competitive and not because every team is bad.
Yeah. It's a legit like top to bottom league now, you know?
Yeah. It feels now like we've heard these rumors of like the last week or so that really anyone can beat anyone. And I was like, oh God, I really hope that doesn't mean that it's just like everyone's playing really badly.
Yeah.
But it looks like everyone has elements of their roster and elements of their teams that are competitive and are like scary things to watch out for, which is the lowest number of wins right now is 2. So no one has 0 wins. No one has 0 losses.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see.
I think each team kind of has 1 or 2 players that can really hold their own too.
100%.
Like, you think of some of those bottom teams, like you think of Shopify, you know, like I think Insanity looked pretty good, and their bot lanes looked okay, maybe not. I haven't watched too much of Shopify, but I know that some of their players are doing, you know, all right.
Yeah. I'd say Bvoy is playing their bot laner. He's been surprisingly a highlight for that team.
Okay.
Insanity, I don't want to say he's looked bad. He's looked really interesting because I think he's played 3 Sion mid games and a Garen mid game now.
Yeah.
So it's like a little hard to tell because he gets to a point in the game with Sion where he's also just unkillable, and it's like that kind of just seems like a Sion thing. So it's a little hard to tell, but Bvoy for sure has been surprisingly good.
Yeah, I think I've seen so many tweets just this past week of how the mechanical level of LCS has gone up, and I think I can't speak too much on mechanics, but I mean, if a lot of these former pros are saying that the mechanics have gone up, then I'll just take their word for it.
Yeah,
it shows in the standings, I guess, you know.
If you want to see an example of that too, watch the FlyQuest versus 100 Thieves game, because it turns into a stomp. It turns into FlyQuest absolutely just dunking on them. But the laning phase is actually really interesting because you have Masu bot for FlyQuest and then Meech for 100 Thieves. They're both rookie AD carries coming out of NACL.
Super young guys.
Super young. It's really cool to see that two like rookie AD carries from the NACL playing against each other in the league. It's sick.
Yeah.
But they trade, I want to say they trade 2v2 kills in bot. So both of them like kill each other in lane, and it turns into, like I said, FlyQuest just rolling over 100 Thieves. But they both have these moments where they like 2v2 kill the other one, which is like not super common in a lot of like these high caliber league games. So it's really cool to see both sides taking dubs.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think some of these young guys are definitely making waves. I like a lot of the rookies that are in the LCS right now, for sure.
Me too.
Yeah.
And some of them are like not exactly rookies, but they've only been in there for like a year. Like Busio, for example. He's not technically a rookie, but he's only
sophomore year.
Right. Yeah. He's like super new. And there's a couple other players that like really haven't been in the league for that long that have also been really fun to watch. So the LCS is actually so fun to watch right now.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it, and I don't even tune in that much. But every game that I've gotten to see, it's a competitive game for the most part.
Yeah, except for if you're Cloud9, and then and then you're 0-4 in the last.
What's
4
happened
games.
with those guys, man? I can't believe like seeing what's happening with these guys. They've lost 4 straight. Are they streaking?
Yeah. They went 3-0 and now they're 0-4. So they end the first round robin 3-4.
Wow.
This is the first time. I don't want to get. I heard 2 different things on broadcast, but I think it was the first one. This is the first time that Cloud9 has lost 4 games in a row on stage since 2016 summer. So this is the first time Blabber has ever lost 4 games on stage in a row. Yeah.
Holy cow. And you look at the roster and that just doesn't seem right.
I know. And so I have a lot of thoughts about this because Cloud9 is my favorite team, so I pay attention to them the most. I think the problem that they're seeing is that Berserker and Vulcan are not playing well. They're just it's not even that they're like not getting resources or it's none of that. They're just not playing well. Like Berserker especially, he's not putting in the work. And what Cloud9 has done, the first 3 games Cloud9 played, it was Blabber on a carry jungle, and it was just Blabber and JoJo running around the map together, killing everyone, and the game looked super easy. That they had the 2 highest damage percent on the team. They were rolling over everyone, and then like Berserker, Vulcan, and Fudge were like kind of there to help, right?
Yeah.
And now they're putting the last 4 games, Blabber has been on tank jungles, and they've been putting all their resources bot for Berserker. He even played a Lucian game. He might have played 2 Lucian games, actually, now that I say that. And they're just losing because he's not having any impact on the game.
Really? That's tough to hear.
I just want to tell them, like, it's okay to play the game differently than most other teams are playing, because most teams are playing mid-bot carry. And I think Cloud9 is this unique team where you need to just let Blabber carry because that's what he wants to do. That's what he's good at. And I think that's okay. Whenever you see teams like win worlds, it's not because they're playing the way that they're supposed to play. It's because they figure out something that works for the team and just go on that really hard. And usually it lines up with the meta, but they do what's best for the team. That's how you get Nautilus mid, you know? Doinby, right?
Yeah, exactly.
No one else is doing that, but it was fun. They won, you know? And it's like Cloud9, I think, needs to lean into JoJo, Blabber being the carries, giving kills to Blabber, and just letting them run over the game, and then let Berserker be stable. They need to stop. Like, I know Berserker is good, but he's not having a good split, and they need to stop trying to force it. I think.
Would you say maybe it's like not like a chemistry thing, but no one's really on the same page together? Because finding your own like team identity, that's huge. I mean, you look at the G2s, you look at the T1s, the Gen Gs, like all of them have somewhat of their own identity as a team. And I feel like Cloud9 should be that team that has a solidified identity, but it's just tough with all the players that they have.
Yeah, I don't know, honestly. It seems like they should have team cohesion with the players that they have, and it feels like they're purposely working against their team identity. It feels like they could be the jungle mid team, the Blabber JoJo team, and for some reason it feels like they're trying to be the JoJo Berserker team, and it's not working. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong too. Maybe I like just not seeing the full picture. Obviously, I have no like behind the scenes access or anything.
Yeah.
But from an outside like fan perspective, that's what it seems like, and it seems pretty straightforward. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that goes into it. It's just really disappointing to see Cloud9 having this roster going into the split and just the last week of performance.
Yeah, but at least they have another round robin. We just finished the first one, so they have a whole nother round robin to go. And time to fix. They don't play another game until next week, so hopefully they get it together. I don't know.
Yeah. Any other teams that are like kind of standing out to you? I really like 100 Thieves, and I really like Team Liquid too. But I know both of those teams are kind of middle of the pack right now.
It's interesting because kind of everyone is middle of the pack right now.
Yeah. Okay.
FlyQuest is 6-1. They're a super fun team to watch. People should check out their games too. But FlyQuest is 6-1, and then NRG, TL, and 100 Thieves are all 4-3.
Okay.
And Cloud9 and Immortals are both 3-4, and then you have two teams at 2-5. So it's kind of like FlyQuest at the top, and then maybe like Shopify and Dignitas at the bottom, and then every other team is 4-3 or 3-4. So
yeah,
like it feels kind of like LEC, and where you have like a top, a bottom, and then just a ton of teams in the middle.
Okay. I want to get your thoughts on Quid and Umpty.
Yeah. Okay, here are my thoughts on Quid and Umpty.
Yeah.
Pleasantly surprised. I didn't have a lot to say about Quid last year. I didn't pay attention to 100 Thieves that much, and I just wasn't that impressed with Quid. But this split, I've been watching him a little bit more, and he's pretty solid.
Yeah,
I like him.
Yeah,
I think he pulled out the Aatrox, right? Am I wrong?
I know he did have one like pretty wild pick.
Yeah,
this
I want to
weekend.
say it was the Aatrox.
The amount of like draft screens that I've seen over the past week is crazy.
Yeah,
it all kind of blends together.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he played it against Shopify Rebellion.
Okay.
Because they pulled out the Scion mid, so he just said,
"Oh, I'm gonna
I'll counter pick you."
Yeah.
He's like, "You're gonna lock Scion mid blind. Okay, I'll lock Aatrox mid against you." It was like the first time in 4 years that anyone's played it, and yeah, it was awesome. It was great.
That was the game that Shopify lost. Then the Scion mid. Yeah. Okay.
That was the Scion mid game that they lost, and then TL Umpty. First of all, he's so funny. When they lose, he looks already completely done with the league. Like they had a loss. Maybe it was when they lost to NRG in the first game of their week, but they cut to Umpty's player cam, and he looked so fed up. It looked like he was ready to go back to Korea like right away. Yeah. And then they won 2 more, so they had a 2-1 week. So he's been playing really well. I think Impact is playing really well too for TL.
Okay.
His Udyr top has been just an absolute monster pick. But yeah, I think Quid and Umpty are both better than I expected, which is really nice.
Unreal. I know Umpty's English. I was pleasantly surprised with how good his English is.
He did an interview or something, right?
Yeah, he did. Well, I know he did a full English interview with Ashley Kang recently, but then he did one with I forgot her name, but he did one with one of the LCS like commentators. Okay. And there's like a clip where she asked, "Oh, like what was your preparation for the week like?" And he was like, "Oh, what does preparation mean?" And then she explained it, and then he proceeded to just fully answer the question. So it's I think that's pretty cool. I think that's huge for that TL team too. Yeah, having a full team of English speakers now.
Yeah,
or at least dual language.
I hope so, because I remember hearing from Worlds last year that there were games that, because APA ended up coming in the mid lane, they were going to do the full Korean speaking roster. Yeah. And then they subbed in APA for Harry. And I remember he talked about some of the Worlds games, and they were just talking in Korean like the whole time. Yeah. And he doesn't speak Korean. So they would all just be like, the rest of his team would be like on the same page doing something, and he'd just be there. And he's like, I don't know. I don't speak Korean. And one of his teammates would go, "Oh yeah," and then like quickly tell him something in English. But it was like 90% of the game, like his team would just be speaking Korean the whole time. Yeah. So it's nice that they're all able to communicate with each other too, and it's cool that Umpty can speak so much English.
Yeah. Pyosik was actually on this thing called Secret Boardroom that's done by the LCK.
And I think I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of like do a deep dive on all the other regions, but recently they've been bringing on guests, and so they brought Pyosik in to talk about the LCS. And he was basically saying how APA has the mechanics to be a top player in the league.
Really?
Yeah. He was really high on APA actually in that interview. And I know a lot of people were like, obviously the TL drama in the offseason with Twitter and Summit, whatnot, talking about APA.
Yeah.
But he's basically saying how like he just doesn't have the IQ. Like he compared APA to himself like a few years ago, where he was a really good like player mechanically, just didn't understand like the macro as well.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so he wasn't saying that he's not smart enough. He's saying that he doesn't have enough game knowledge yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So basically,
I thought Pyosik went on an interview and said APA is just dumb.
Yeah.
This guy's got no IQ.
He had his back. He had his back pretty good. He did say JoJo was the best mid in LCS, but he said that APA like he had potential and he's still young, has room to grow. But I thought that was really interesting because obviously we don't really get to hear the ins and outs of like what each player is thinking. But for him to talk about the LCS and talk about APA in a positive way, I thought that was pretty cool. It shows a lot about Pyosik and it shows a lot about where APA is too.
Yeah.
You got to think he doesn't even have a full season under his belt. So
right. It's nice to see him say that too, especially after that TL drama, to have him like come out publicly and say like defend him. That's pretty sick.
Yeah. That whole video is pretty cool. Pyosik kind of gave a deep dive on like his off season, whatnot, and he was going to go back to streaming potentially this year. Like,
really,
he was, So like the offer periods, I guess, for LCS and LCK, they're kind of different. So if you try to get a contract with an LCK team, like by the time you come back for LCS, all the spots will be filled. So he was worried about going back to LCK, and like if he was going to do that, didn't find a team, he wouldn't have a team in LCS. But like KT, I guess, was really big on him, so he got pretty lucky. He was saying like, yeah, I got really lucky that KT had their eyes on me. Otherwise, I would have been streaming.
Wow! Imagine that pipeline of going world champ to LCS to streaming. That would have been a bummer.
Yeah. And then he basically said Deft and Barrel joined KT after he did. So it looks like Pyosik was kind of like that first piece to fall for KT.
It's cool that he's being valued by players in the scene too, because I know like going into Worlds, I mean, he was like splitting time with Juhan at the time going into Worlds. The Worlds
Juhan played like the play-ins.
Yeah.
The playing stage, Yeah, and
he was playing during the LCK split too, and then he ended up they took Worlds in that absolutely crazy run. And it's cool that since then it seems like he has gotten better too.
Yeah, it just sucks because KT right now is probably the most inconsistent team in the LCK.
Really? I saw that they're like what 4-2, so they're like top 4 or something.
Yeah, I think they're 4th place right now, but like they had their loss against Kwangdong. It just feels like every game's kind of a coin flip. It's not like they're losing every game, but it kind of feels like they're getting lucky. Like they played DRX this past weekend, and it went to 3 games. And Pyosik had like 3 steals on objectives in the 3rd game. And it was like, it probably should have gone DRX's way, but Pyosik was just him. I think BDD actually had a Baron steal too.
Wow.
And it was just like, it's like coin flippy, this team.
What is happening in Korea right now? Because the first 3 episodes of this podcast, and pretty much how I've felt for the past like 2 years, is that Korea is a top 5, bottom 5 league, and there's top 5 teams who will always be top 5, and a bottom 5 teams who will always be bottom 5, and that there won't be anyone who moves up or down from that, and there'll be people who challenge for 6th to get into playoffs, but there's going to be top 5, bottom 5 pretty much. And now I'm looking at the standings, and Fear X and Kwangdong are both over D plus Kia.
Yep.
What's happening?
D plus has had a rough week, man. I think they're like, so I have KT and D plus as the underperformers, the inconsistents. I know the record doesn't show that KT is like underperforming. But they're barely scraping out wins. D plus is just, it's the Showmaker show, and it's only Showmaker. I feel like Lucid.
That's so disappointing.
Yeah, like the Lucid Showmaker synergy, it's there, but Lucid will just make dumb mistakes elsewhere without Showmaker, and it'll throw King in aiming, they might be frauds as well.
Really? There's so
Yeah.
much fraud watch right now. There's
Yeah.
so many people on fraud alert.
Yeah, a lot of people and a lot of teams on fraud watch right now. But
Yeah.
I think for sure DK is one of those teams where like they got fully outplayed by Kwangdong. They got 2-0'd by Kwangdong this week. And
that's wild.
yeah, Kwangdong just looks like a way better team than them. Like it didn't look like D Plus had anything they could do.
Was that the series that Bull came in for Taeyun?
Bull came in against KT so
last
week. So this was this week's series. So Kwangdong played they played D Plus first and they played Gen G last night.
Oh, and Gen G is like legit undefeated, right? They're like 12-0 or something.
Gen G's like legit. They're a legit team.
Have they lost a single game, or are they actually just 12-0?
They lost one. No, they've lost 2 games. They lost 1 to D Plus and 1 to T1.
That's right. But they're 10-2 then.
Yeah, they're I think 5-0.
6-0. Yeah.
6-0. Yeah.
I'm looking. Yeah, just looking at the standings.
Yeah. So they're still undefeated on the season. They might go for a perfect split. Who knows? But
that would be sick.
Yeah, Kwangdong is that team. I know I've touched on them a ton, but they look legit now. I think I have them solidly in the top 5.
Really?
Yeah.
You think that they're just going to end top 5?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
I have Gen G, T1, Kwangdong, Hanwha Life. Okay, not in that order, but Kwangdong, Hanwha Life, and then KT. Those are like my top 5 teams right now, and I have D Plus outside of the top 5.
Oh man, Showmaker was so bad too. I was so
bad.
He's back. They're going they're gonna beat everyone. It's Showmaker season. And then I checked the standings today, 2-4. I was like, man, come on.
It's rough, man. It's rough. And Kwangdong, I don't know if they're overperforming or if they're just really solid. Like I think Cuz is definitely the center of that team.
Yeah.
But Bull coming up was like the missing piece. And now they just look really solid.
I mean, we talked about him a little bit last week when you're right. That's when we talked about him. We talked about him last week when he came in and had some just insane games against KT.
Mm-hmm.
But he's been consistent. Huh? He's still at that level.
Yeah. Even against Gen G last night, like obviously Gen G stomped them, but for the first game, it kind of felt like they were in it. You know,
really.
Kwangdong was trading kills in the bot lane. Like it felt winnable for like maybe the first 20 minutes of the game, and then Gen G's just Gen G. But
that's the best you can get from Gen G.
Yeah, Gen G does that to everyone. Yeah, so it's like you can't really judge them too hard on that. But they beat 2 of the top teams, and I thought they beat them pretty handily. Like their D plus game wasn't close at all.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's cool to see FearX and Kwangdong being the 2 that are stepping up, because those are the teams that I like the best too. I remember going into this split, I was kind of hyped on FearX, just seeing Junghoon come in, or what he's in Execute, seeing him come back into the LCK from the LEC. I was like, oh, it's kind of cool whenever you see like a player who, because I don't think he didn't play in the LCK before he went to the LEC, right? He played, like,
I think he was Challengers.
League, I think.
Yeah.
So it's neat to see like these players who debut in other regions come back and be able to like compete in the LCK or the LPL. So I thought that was super cool. And I just, since FearX was Sandbox, I've always just thought that they were a cool team that I was, always interested in watching. And then the stuff we talked about with Kwangdong, with them like training with T1 and like having this training arc to come up and be the next competitive team. And they go back to Afrika, right? It was Afrika Freaks before Kwangdong Freaks. I'm just remembering this now. So they've had competitive seasons before.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think this year's kind of like finally their return to maybe not glory, but they should make playoffs. I think
I would love that to happen.
Yeah.
So do you see a world where D Plus misses playoffs? Then do you think that they're 7th? Do you think, like, because they're 7th right now, but do you think they're actually 7th?
It depends. So Kwangdong's had one of the harder schedules, honestly, and where they're sitting right now it's pretty impressive. I think D Plus has had a somewhat easy schedule. Like, they should be realistically at least 3-3, maybe even 4-2. So
that's a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it feels like D plus just isn't on the same page, I guess. Like it feels like Showmaker's doing everything for the team and everyone else is just kind of watching Showmaker, which is sad because we all know how good Showmaker can be on a good team, but right now it's only him.
And it's sad that like Kingen might be a fraud too, because he got finals MVP when they won in 2022. And I was like, okay, like, Zeka is the one who's like really carried this team. He's the highlight of 2022. But Kingen had a legit series against T1. He played really well. He deserved finals MVP.
Zayus.
He did. And now apparently he's a fraud. So
yeah, he has not looked up to form. Like last year on Hanwha, he didn't look amazing. This year, he just has not looked very good either.
I remember that.
I think he's kind of riding that Worlds win a little bit to some contracts.
I guess you take that. I guess if you're Kingen, you take that.
yeah, exactly. And if you're Showmaker, you're a little sad. If you're a D plus fan, you're extra sad. But yeah, I think it's going to be a toss up for sure between KT, D plus, FearX. I think DRX could even sneak in there.
Really?
Yeah. I think
they're 1-5.
Yeah, I know. But this past weekend, they have 3 rookies on their team. I thought they played pretty well against KT. Like,
really,
they took them to a 2-1 series, and honestly, like I said earlier, they probably should have won Game 3, but they just stole. Like KT stole every objective. Like Sponge was crying. Like he broke down in tears after the game.
I saw that. I was wondering why. Like, what made him break down? Because I figured it was just kind of like a normal series. So I was wondering why it caused him to like completely break down like that. And it was because of that Game 3, huh?
Yeah. So I was looking at the stats. I think the game score ended. KT had like 18 kills to DRX's 9.
Okay.
But I think halfway through the game, it was like 9-1 DRX.
Wow.
Yeah. So they had a pretty decent lead and just threw pretty hard.
Man, okay, I could see how that, especially in a Game 3 too.
In Game 3, he's a rookie jungler, like just a lot of emotions weighing on him for sure.
Sorry, do you think he's the best rookie on DRX, or do you think they're all good? Or
I think Saytab's probably that guy for them.
Okay,
their mid laner.
Actually, is he mid laner? Okay,
yeah, he's their mid laner. So they have Sponge, Saytab, and then it's their support.
Okay.
But I think Saytab's looked the best out of the rookies on that team for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're a team I think it really is Nongshim, Brion at the bottom 2.
Okay.
And then it's going to be like those 4 teams kind of fighting for those last 2 spots.
I think so cool.
Yeah. I honestly solidly have Gen G, T1, Hanwha Life, and Kwangdong as like my top 4 right now.
Wow.
Yeah. Which might be, it's definitely a hot take. I don't think a lot of people will have Kwangdong there, but just based on how they've been playing, like it's hard to not have them there. Like their synergy's so good. I'm really high on Kwangdong, clearly.
Well, I hope that this hot take lasts longer and performs better than your RA hot take.
Yeah, because don't even get me started on that, bro. 0-8 right now.
They're on the come up. They're contenders for sure. I checked the schedule today. 0-4.
Yeah,
you're talking out of your ass.
Yeah, so maybe I'm jinxing these guys.
Maybe
I don't know.
You are. Maybe we're gonna see Kwangdong not win another game for the rest of the split.
I sure hope not. But yeah, RA, they're frauds for sure. I'm
they
no longer
0-8.
Yeah, they haven't won a single game, and it's not even like they've been playing hard teams. Like they have played some hard teams, but I think they've had some matches where they should have won. For sure. I'm no longer looking at Demacia Cup ever again and basing anything off of that.
Because that's where you got your Nocturne Orianna take too, right? Because that was something that I was going to tell you about today. Is that we've talked about teams and players who are on Fraud Watch, but I have a new pick to add to Fraud Watch.
It's the Nocturne Ori?
Nocturne. No, it's just Nocturne.
Oh, just Nocturne.
I think Ori's fine. I think Nocturne is absolutely on Fraud Watch. Let me hold on. I pulled up some stats on it because I wanted to tell you about it. It got a little better recently because Armeo, of all people, just won a game on it in the LCS. But across all top regions, It's 5-13. So it has a 27% win rate. And the LCK is the only region that has a positive win rate. It's 2-1 in the LCK. But in the LCS, it's 2-3. In the LEC, it's 0-3. And in the LPL, it's 1-6.
Oh, wow.
I'm telling you, this pick is for frauds. It's
okay.
Like, people are picking Nocturne Orianna and sometimes throwing Rel in there, or like other like top laners that can run in too. And their game plan is put the ball on one of these people and have put the ball on Nocturne, have him dive in and one shot someone, and then we'll win the fight. And it just doesn't work. It just never works because people flash out, or they don't die, or they Zhonya's, or whatever it is, and then you have a Nocturne in the middle of 5 people who insta dives, and you're fighting a 4v5. So I think this pick only works if you play it. Surprisingly, how what is it? Immortals? Is that what the team Armeo's on? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just checked. Yeah. God, I can't believe I flubbed that. But you have to play it in a way, I think, kind of like how Armeo played it, where he only went for the ball combo one time, and the rest of it was like turn the lights out, use like that as your advantage, and then he can solo ult someone still. But it's like you have the team collapse together when the lights are out, rather than just sending him in solo with the ball and hoping you win off of it. And I think every time people try and do that, it just doesn't work.
I think Contracts played it against Shopify.
Is that right?
The team, I think that was the game that they lost, because I remember watching that, and it felt like every time Contracts would try to turn the lights out, it would be like a waste of an ult, a waste of a cooldown. Like, they would get picks, or not picks, but they would get sums off guys, and then Contracts would just run in and turn the lights off. They just could not time the Nocturne ults properly, and it was just always off.
Nocturne fraud alert.
Nocturne is on fraud alert.
It's TBD, but I think it's bad, and I think it's not going to get you wins unless you play it in like very specific scenarios.
Okay.
So, Nocturne's on fraud alert, just like you are for your goddamn
RA take.
RA take.
All right. Yeah, I'll take that one. I'll hold out on that one, because they are legit the only team that has not won a game in any region.
That's so funny.
Like, not even a single game, bro.
You're not even ready for RA. 0-8.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
That's a tough look. Speaking of RA and some of these players, I guess, in the LPL, I want to talk about some of the Koreans that are in the LPL, because they're not looking too hot. Prince did have a pentakill. But,
really? I didn't see that.
He who did he have against? Regardless, though, I think a lot of the imports right now in Korea are not looking the best, at least on these bottom teams. You can count out like the Scout, the Kanavi, and the rookies, but like Vikla, Kyle, Krako, Docdom, Life, like, it's a tough watch already watching some of these teams, but watching these guys play, sometimes they just make some of the dumbest errors. Like, Krako played, I think it was up, but Krako just, like, I don't know, out of position all the time, trying to find flanks on Poppy when his team should have been fighting front to back. It's just a tough look. I don't know. They're not looking too hot, some of these Korean players over in the LPL. I don't know if it's a language barrier thing. I don't know if it's a new atmosphere, but
to be fair, some of these players like weren't the best in Korea either, right? Like, I mean, I know Life has like had his time in the sun, but like, I don't think Duckdom was ever really like a top tier AD carry. Krako was like one of those players who people thought was good on a bad team, but like he never really. He was on like Live Sandbox.
Yeah,
right?
He was always
on
Sandbox.
With Prince?
Yeah, he did play with Prince. Yeah,
but like Vikla, I don't know. All those guys, they were like almost good, right? But I feel like a lot of these like LCK players you're talking about, they were never like the best in LCK either.
Yeah. I'm not saying I was expecting too much out of them, but like, even on these bottom teams in the LPL, like, they're still not really showing out.
That sucks.
Yeah, there's definitely top teams in the LPL, there's middle of the pack teams, and then it's everybody else. Pretty much. Really? Yeah. I'd say there's like a pretty solid top 6 or 7 in the LPL.
Okay.
And then everybody else kind of just fits wherever.
Man, the thing that trips me up about LPL though too is like the way that they play games, because I was just briefly like looking at the standings for the LPL too, and teams like NIP, they've played 5 series already,
Yeah.
and Top has played 3.
Same with like JDG.
Yeah.
Only played 3.
That's right. Yeah, they've only played 3 series too. So it's like I can never, whenever I tune into like LPL, I always feel like I don't have a great idea who's actually good or bad, because some teams have just played like twice as many games as other teams.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things for LPL, like trying to see all these different matchups, because certain teams have only played bad teams and certain teams have only played good teams, and certain teams still need that challenge, I guess. Like, I think NIP is one of those teams where they need a few more games against good teams. They got 2-0'd by JDG, but they've beaten everybody else that they've played.
Do you think that they're one of those top teams then still? Even
yeah,
if they
I have them as middle of the pack. So like the teams that I kind of have as legit teams are Top Esports, BLG, and JDG. I think those 3 are going to be the top 3 at the end of the split. And then middle of the pack wise, I have LNG, Weibo, and NIP, which LNG had a pretty close series against JDG last night, but JDG, they honestly look really good. Flandre looks really good. Kanavi looks really good. They're just a well-oiled machine for sure. And Ruler's Ruler. Hard to top that.
Ruler is just rulering.
Yeah. I think those top 6 though, they're pretty interchangeable, and then everybody else is kind of just there.
So even though like IG is currently in 4th, like tied with Weibo, you think that they're, and like LGD and WE have like better scores than LNG do. You think all those teams are just, it's strength of schedule?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah, because like WE, they beat LGD, and LGD is, they're not actually, like, I think when you're watching so many games and it's a lot of these worse matchups, you kind of, like, I was getting like a false sense of who's good and who's not. But when you see like the 2 top teams play, and then you see a top team, like a true top team versus like a middle bottom team, the difference is, it's pretty night and day for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the standings will work themselves out as the split goes on, but they're not super accurate right now.
Yeah, like IG, I think they have wins against like TT. Like TT had that fluke win against LNG, but they've gotten 2-0'd every other series. Like IG 2-0'd RA. You know, like it's definitely strength of schedule, because IG also got smoked by, I think, Top East. No, they got smoked by NIP. So that discrepancy is pretty apparent.
I've heard that it's hard to 2-0 RA though. I've heard that they're up and coming and going to take over the whole split.
Dude, you gotta don't sleep on RA, bro. They made it to semis at the Demacia Cup.
I'm never letting you live that down ever, by the way. I'm preying on RA's downfall so hard right now just so I can make fun of you.
I hope you didn't say anything about Fly last year then.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. My bad. We don't have that recorded, so
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, LPL is definitely, it's one of those leagues where it's very top heavy for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a pretty clear top heavy. Like the top teams, like any of those 3 teams, I think could definitely compete with the best of the world, like a Gen G or T1.
Yeah.
The middle of the pack guys, I'm not as sure about. Like LNG kind of seems like frauds, honestly. Like we might have to put those guys on fraud alert. Yeah. Like,
oh man,
they're good, but okay, maybe not their whole team, but Mark needs to go on fraud alert for sure.
Really?
I don't know why they're not playing Hong at all.
Wasn't Mark like? Wasn't there a point like last year or 2 years ago in the LPL where like the best supports were like the 4 M's or something?
It was like Mark missing.
Yeah. But Mark is not it. Huh?
Mark is not it, bro. I'm only speaking as a viewer.
Yeah.
But I loved Hong on LNG. I mean, I thought they were a good team last year.
Was he the one who played last year?
He played, yeah. He was their starting support. Mark was on Top Esports. Yeah, he was really he was solid.
Yeah, I had no complaints.
Yeah, now Mark, I don't know, like he played a Pike game against JDG, and early he was good, and then late in the game, like he just looked completely useless. I don't know. It's one of those things where I feel like they just need a change of guys in that support role.
Yeah.
And I feel like that might be a consensus throughout the world, because I think Hong's solid, and he just hasn't gotten he's gotten, I think, 2 games this year.
Man.
But they've been playing Mark, so I don't know. I don't have too much else to really say about the LPL. It's a pretty top heavy league, and that's pretty much about where I gotta leave it.
Well, then let me ask you a little bit more about LCK, because one of the things I've been hearing is that Zeus might just be like the best player in the world right now.
Yeah,
like,
Zeus looks, honestly, Team One as a whole looks crazy. They had in their first game against Bro was playing two rookies.
Wasn't that like the 7-minute tower game or something?
It was absurd. So Guma and Keria, Caitlyn Lux,
Right. Classic.
probably one of the more unstoppable Caitlyn Luxes, probably the most unstoppable. They took 10 turret plates before 10 minutes, or at 10 minutes. So they
That's
took
insane.
bot tower. Yeah, they completely took bot tower at 7 minutes, and then they went up to top and took the whole top tower too.
Didn't Keria ended up having like the most damage that game?
Yeah, his Lux was nutty. I think he finished like 4-0 and something, a ton of assists. It didn't look fair. It was like, kind of felt bad for these two rookies playing in their first LCK game against Guma Keria.
Man, so T1 are them, except for when they play against Gen G, and then they just have the most impenetrable mental block of all time.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. I mean, they smoked Hanwha Life. Like, they beat them pretty handedly, and I think Hanwha Life is the solid third place in the LCK right now.
Yeah, because I'm seeing them at 5-1, and that was a team that I thought was going to be where D+ is now. I thought it was going to be like a Gen G T1 D+ KT top 4 with like Hanwha potentially fighting at the bottom of that. But they're looking solid. I mean, I haven't watched a lot of their games, but they're 5-1.
Yeah, they're solid. They're legit. I mean, you got to think it's literally just Gen G from last year, but instead of Pays, they have Viper. I mean, that's not too bad of a swap.
It's
instead
hard
of Chovy,
to say.
You have Zeka. It's like, still not that bad of a swap.
It's hard to say that would be a bad roster to just go the Gen G roster that was supposed to win everything last year potentially, and then put Viper in for Pays, who's always considered one of the best ADCs in the entire world, and then Zeka in for Chovy. I mean, like, it's hard to like top Chovy, but like you said, Zeka's not a bad replacement for Chovy.
Exactly. So I think Han was definitely like the legit third team. Okay. In the LCK, they beat D+ pretty handedly too, and it just feels like all the roles are playing pretty free. They play as a team really well too. I don't really have too much else to say about Hanwha Life. I think that they're just solidly gonna be in that 3 spot for the rest of the season.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I guess we'll see what happens, what shakes out past 3 then. I mean, hopefully KT saves 4. I would love to see him higher, but it sounds like that's not going to happen. So
that's one of the KT's one of those teams where they're gonna. It's hard to tell with them right now.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of Pyosik and it's a lot of BDD.
Okay.
Honestly, it's a lot of Pyosik, Deft, and BDD, and then Beryl and Perfect are they're that true supporting cast, you know?
Yeah. I feel like we've gone through pretty much everything.
Yeah. One quick thing. While we're still on the LCK.
Sure.
So I want to tell you like a pretty cool, heartwarming story. Or I think this is like super cool, honestly. So
let's hear it.
Back in 2021, Faker went on this like variety show. It was called About Time, and basically contestants could bid on time to like talk with Faker.
Oh, cool.
So like they had a bunch of people in the audience, and then this dad, he had stage 4 cancer, and he had a few months left to live, and he bid 6 million Korean won, so like around $5,400.
Okay.
So that him and his son could meet Faker. This was in 2021.
Yeah.
The whole thing was super emotional. Like Faker was crying when he heard the dad's story, and then eventually, like the guy ended up winning the bidding, and Faker went and talked to the kid, and the kid dreamed of being a pro gamer. And Faker was just like brutally honest with the kid. Like, there's so many people trying to become pro gamers. Like, if like the kid was in middle school, so he's like, you have to go all in on gaming. Like, do you know that that's what you want to do? Like, if you don't go all in, you're not going to make it. Like, he was saying stuff like that, like super honest with the kid.
I mean, that's how it is, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're not 100% in it, then it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. So Faker is just super like organic and honest with the kid.
Yeah.
And fast forward to now, that kid, he recently did an interview, and he's a few years away apparently from making his debut in academy in the
wow
in Korea. And like he dropped out of high school to go all in, and he like took Faker's advice to heart, which is so cool. Like I'm sure that whole experience for him was like just life changing. And his name's Jimin.
Okay.
He hit Grandmaster as a 15-year-old.
In Korea?
In Korea, yeah.
Oh man.
So this is the kicker though. Do you remember the Showmaker viral Kasante clip?
Yeah.
Guess who the Kasante was?
It was him?
It was this kid, yeah.
Oh my, that's wild.
It's like the craziest full circle moment. And like the fact that this kid is close to debuting soon in academy, like the way that whole thing played out, I thought that was like probably one of the most heartwarming things that I've seen in a while. Like just
That's
the original
so cool.
video is super touching, but then to see that this kid is actually taking Faker's advice to heart, and he's like on the cusp of making it as a pro gamer, I think that's like one of the coolest things. And to be tied with one of the most viral clips of all time, like he was the Kasante in that video.
Man, imagine how cool it would be if he ends up going pro, if he ends up in the LCK and plays Kasante against like either Showmaker or Faker or any of them. How crazy is that going to go?
It'd be insane. Like that'd be probably the coolest thing for the kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Jay Talkie for showing that the Kasante was this kid Jimin.
That's cool.
I would have never realized that until I saw that on Twitter. And I was like, there's no way that it's the viral Kasante is this kid. Like the odds of that are just so slim.
So slim. I mean, but like that's got to be like some kind of good like juju though, right? Like the fact that he can make Showmaker rage that hard. Like, I mean, who knows? But like that's kind of sick.
Yeah. I think it's a super cool story. If you guys want to check out that Faker video, I would recommend seeing that and just kind of seeing how this kid's evolved. I think it's really cool and really touching.
That's a cool story.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome that it actually ended up being him.
I hope he's doing it now.
Yeah, I do too. I think all of us should be rooting for him, honestly. And
what was it, Jimin? Is that right?
Jimin, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that's his actual IGN, but
okay.
Yeah.
That's sick. I hope we get to see him in the LCK at some point.
Yeah, me too. He's like 16 or 17, so he's still super young too.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. That's it for us. Thanks for watching episode 4 of the All Chat podcast. Tune in next week for episode 5. And in the meantime, you can follow us on all of our social media at All Chat LOL on pretty much all platforms. Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, obviously YouTube. Check out all those, and then look for the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and pretty much any other major podcasting app. We'll see you guys all next week. Thanks so much.